Hello and welcome to day 12 of 1,350 days. There are no sales to report today. The figure remains at 1,084. So without any sales, I thought I'd tell you guys a story. Now this story is about my 3 weirdest ever book sales. So these are all book sales of my paperback book. Let me just grab a copy for you guys. Show you, these are all book sales of Escape the System, although I do have a paperback of my other book as well, but I haven't, that's changed because it's now been picked up by a publisher. So we're talking about sales of Escape the System. Here we go. And this is my top three weirdest sales. And the message here really is, if you are a book writer or you have your own product, never make assumptions about who won't be interested in buying it. You know, you may have a fixed idea, your market research may have told you and be such and such a person, and the book won't appeal to other people. And that might be useful, but at the same time, never discount people, the fact that they might be interested. It's always worth telling people about what you're doing. Not in an overbearing way, not in a sort of starting the conversation by talking about it, but if their conversation happens to head into that direction, then never be afraid to mention what you do and tell people a little bit about it. You never know who's interested, hopefully, as these 3 stories will reveal. So number 3 was actually quite a recent book sale. Back in March of this year, I attended a careers fair. Not a careers fair, actually, a school. It was for a school, a secondary school, very local to me in Banstead, and they wanted people to come in and talk about careers. So I guess it was a careers fair in a way for the students at the school. So a load of stalls were set up about, you know, conventional careers, and then there was me with my couple of books, also talking about my hypnotherapy and tennis coaching work. But what really surprised me was a 13-year-old kid wanted to buy a copy of my book. Now his name's Alex. I can't remember his second name. I follow him on Instagram now, and he follows me. So Alex, if you happen to see this video, thanks again for buying the book. Now I'd have never imagined that a 13-year-old kid would buy my book, Escape the System. Yes, it's written partly it's written for a younger audience, but I'm thinking 18 and upwards. University really is where I got interested in this quest to escape the system and create the life I want. And I imagine that's when other people start to get interested in it as well. However, this kid seemed to be pretty enterprising. He seemed to be interested in a lot of different things with quite an inquisitive mind. So he bought a copy of my book. That shocked me, paid me on PayPal because obviously he couldn't bring any money into school. So that's at number 3. Number 2 was a couple of years back ago. I spoke at Tom Butler Bowden's launch for his 50 economics classics. He has got a 50 philosophy classics book, but this was the launch of 50 economics classics, and we went to the Freud House, or the Freud Museum, up in London. We had a little bit of a talk. I gave a little bit of a talk. Tom gave a talk. A few other guys gave a talk. And then afterwards, we all sort of hung out. After the event was finished, I went then to meet up with my brother in Tooting, and he was at a sort of nightclub / bar. And I was in the queue outside to get in, and I was dressed quite smartly. I had a blazer on. I'd been giving this talk, and a couple of people in the queue said to me, "Oh, you look like you've just come from work." And I said, "Yes, I have actually. I've just been doing a talk." And they said, "Oh yeah, then what do you do?" And I said, "Well, I'm an author, and I've just been giving a talk about my books and talking about somebody else's books as well." And they said, "No, you're not. We don't believe you." So I had my bag with me, opened it up, whipped out a copy of Escape the System and said, "Well, yeah, here's my book. This is it." And they were like, "No way." They took a look at it, were quite interested, and then 2 of them bought copies, and that's in a queue waiting to go into a nightclub. So that was pretty unusual for me. But the number 1, again, happened probably maybe 3 years ago, was when I was just in my flat working away, any old day, just like today. Suddenly got a knock on my door, and this man is there, and he says, a wasp, he's a pest controller. He said, oh, we've got a report of a wasp infestation just outside your window. And I said, really? I didn't know anything about this. I certainly didn't report it. Turns out the flat below did, and he was trying to get into my place to gain access to this wasp's nest. Anyway, he did his thing, destroyed the wasp's nest, and then he was in my flat, we're just chatting. He happened to see a copy of The Power of Now, which I just had lying out on the desk. I was reading it at the time. He said, oh, that looks interesting. I might, either he'd started reading it or his girlfriend had started reading it. We got chatting about it. I mentioned I was a hypnotherapist, and I said, oh, well, if you like those books, you know, I'm actually an author myself. Here's what I've written. And then I went and showed him a copy of Escape the System. Now he looked pretty interested, said, yeah, I like this, and then paid me there and then on the spot, £8 a copy for the paperback, and took the book. So this was a guy who, one, I never knew was going to turn up, two, had turned up to destroy a wasp's nest without any kind of... he had no idea he was going to buy a book. I had no idea I was going to buy a book. And we just got chatting through a mutual interest in the power of now. So these examples all show that you can never really tell who might be interested in your work. Don't dismiss anyone, even if they're outside of your so-called demographic that you're supposed to be appealing to. You never know who might be interested. It's always worth, if it's relevant to the conversation, to talk about what you do. I know it can always be a bit difficult as well at the start. You might be a bit hesitant. You might be a bit nervous about talking about what you do. You might not feel confident in it because it's something you've newly released. Well, you've just got to push through that, because the more you talk about it, the more confident you get, and it becomes relaxed, it becomes natural. And when you start talking about it in a relaxed and natural way, you never know. You'll be surprised at who is actually interested and how many extra sales you can make. So that's the top 3 weirdest book sales I've had so far. I may do an update on this video if I have any weirder ones. For now, I think that's all for today. As I said, the count stands at 1,084, and I will be back with day 13, 14, 15, 16, day 16 of 1,350 days on Monday. See you then.